Okay, and so you are participants,
Mhm.
attendees,
Now, what you need to do for me,
city media. What do I need to do?
you should see me in attendees. So
Yep.
I'm here as an attendee. You can leave me as an attendee.
Okay, I don't need to move you over.
No,
Okay.
but what you do need to do is allow, this is the key.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when you said you couldn't hear them?
Mm-hmm.
You have to
Reopening in progress.
put your,
So why do I have auditorium and city? This. What? How am I getting? Test. Okay. So how do I make sure the transcripts are coming up? There it is. Show closed caption. There it is. Nope. No need. This is perfect. It's perfect. Yep. And it's on at the and okay, and it's doing there. Test. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm good with this.
Good evening, this is a test.
Perfect. Thank you, Amber.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll get going fairly shortly here. Thank you and good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
We'll start with roll call. Chair Joseph Miller,
Here.
Secretary Jeremy Beaudry here. Vice Chair Brandon Snyder,
Here.
City Council President Mary Sheffield. Portia Perry. Herb Chapman. Jessica Parker,
Here.
Patrick Duffy. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a quorum and I'd like to call the meeting to order at 5:33 p.m. Thank you. Okay, folks, thank you very much. First order of business, I would take a motion to approve the meeting agenda, please.
Motion to approve the agenda.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there support?
Support.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. I'd like to move to approval of the previous meeting minutes, which the board has been distributed a copy. Upon your review, a motion would be in order to approve.
A motion to approve.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there support?
Support.
Any discussion on the matter? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. At this time, I would like to open the floor for public comment, starting with anyone in the room here tonight. There will be a 1-minute limit on that. Anyone wishing to speak in public comments, please approach the podium. And seeing none, Mr. Zander, is there anyone online?
Chair, there's no one online with their hands raised.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move right ahead. I've got a brief report of the chair here tonight. This is what I contemplate as being our last meeting where we're going to be taking some additional testimony from rank and file and some company representatives this evening. We are planning toward the April meeting to invite some expert testimony to react to some of the data points that have been developed in the survey. So that's our immediate future. I anticipated our next meeting to form one or more committees to parse and break apart the work in terms of starting to draft recommendations for consideration by this board. As we contemplate wrapping up our work, we are bound by statute to complete our work in October. And it is my hope that we're going to complete that work a month or so ahead of time. Any questions on the board from my report, please? Thank you. Hearing none, I'd like to move on to old business now. And if you're ready, Mr. Beaudry, Secretary Beaudry, you are first to offer testimony as a representative of the professional group. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. Good evening, board members.
Good evening, sir.
You guys look a lot different from over here. Good looking group.
You look a little different too. Nice to see you up there.
So, thank you for taking time out. I wanted to give an opportunity to kind of introduce myself to you that don't know me, what I do and what my company does here in Detroit for the sports and entertainment venues. My name is Jeremy Beaudry. My current title is Vice President of Operations for PBS, which stands for Preferred Buildings. Oh, shit, I forgot what it stands for now. We're on the TPG. We're on the TPG umbrella. PBS is the union aspect of it. So we have non-union, we have union. So all the union accounts I oversee, I have direct oversight over. My former title was Vice President of Sports and Entertainment Venues for the professional group. Currently been in the venue world about 8 years now. And we call our employees pros because we're the professional group. So if you hear me use the word pros, it's so embedded in my brain that that's what I'm talking about. We work all three of them. We work Ford Field, Little Caesars Arena, as well as the northern venues. We are a contractor. So we work through contract with each of these venues. We do not work directly with them. Our employees are third-party contractors. We provide management and labor and work with our partners in the SEIU. I do have 304 total workers that work the venues under the professional group. Now, I did get this data for last month's meeting, so it fluctuates a little bit. Of the 304, 260 of them are Detroit residents. That's 85.5% are Detroit residents. 134 are female, 44%, and 170 or 56% are male. Our starting pay based on the CBA is $14.65 for a general cleaner. Benefits also are included in the by the SEIU, and I will say they're very good. Definitely proud to partner with the SEIU on that. They offer their very good benefits for these guys. We have a lot of great success stories about folks that have started at the bottom and worked their way to the top. My director of operations for venues started as a cleaner. The site manager with direct oversight at Ford Field, Comerica Park, and Little Caesars Arena all started lower and then worked their way up. I do want to say that the stakeholders at the venues, in my experience, have been wonderful partners of ours. They're always willing to sit at the table for any issues that we see to try to resolve them the best that we can. For us, I just want to talk about three things that, to me, what I've noticed over the last few years that we could really get some help on. And that would be transportation, the bus routes. On the weekends, they run times a little differently. They end, say midnight. And I'm just guessing here. I mean, certain routes are different. They may not start up again until 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, meaning if you work the night shift, you're kind of stuck there. One thing we do in the venues, at Little Caesars Arena, we are the in-house cleaners. So we do the day shift there. We do all the event cleaning. We do all the post-event cleaning. Comerica Park, we do the post-event cleaning only. And at Ford Field, we are also the in-house cleaners there. We do day-to-day operations, event cleaning, and post-event cleaning. For those that have never done it, post-event cleaning is very, very hard work. I'm sure you've all seen that after a concert and a game, nacho, beers, popcorn, peanut shells. The team works very, very hard. They do a great job, and they take pride in it as well. The transportation, as recently as today, I had to deal with some issues on it. We would like to be as lenient as we can and understanding as we can. Some of these folks are taking multiple buses a day, 2-hour rides to get to work. So it's just been something I've noticed over the last 7, 8 years that's really been an issue. Another big issue I want to bring up is parking. We heard some testimony from some folks that work in the venues about the parking. They get to park across the street. Our folks don't get to park anywhere. They're on their own. As we are not employees, we do not get parking at all. They have to park and they have to pay like everybody else. I do believe it's discounted, I think $11 a day. That's a lot of money for these guys, a lot of money. I will say this topic's been brought up over the years with the stakeholders. We've had multiple meetings, and I know that before COVID, they had a good plan. I think COVID came and things got, as they did everywhere, a little messed up, but to not be able to park, it's hard enough to park in the city of Detroit. We've had folks park on the street, get their cars broken into. Then you have folks that will park in the garages, then they leave, then they hit the button, then they're getting in arguments with security. That's a common thing. So I would love to have more conversations with the stakeholders on what we can do for parking. I do understand at Little Caesars Arena, on an event day, we probably have about 100 people. We have about 10 during the day, 35 or so per event, 65 to 80 on the post-event shifts. I do understand during the event that those parking spots are for the customers. But I would like to see, I would like to provide some parking for our people. They work hard. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, especially recently, is affordable food. I spend a lot of my time at Little Caesars Arena, and if I eat lunch there, it's about $25 for a salad and drink. A 20-ounce soda is $7. If I'm there, I'll buy lunch if I see a pro, and I just happen to be in the same place. But they don't have a lot of options. They just don't have a lot of options. If you work post-event, now, so post-event, 11 p.m. to 7, 8 a.m., there's nothing. You have nothing. So you can bring your food, and then hopefully you have lockers and you can eat food, or that's it, or you don't eat. If you want to leave for lunch, there's nothing very close. So, I don't know, what the answers are there, but for as hard as these folks work, affordable food. I'm not saying free food, but if we can get some affordable food, and I do think that I believe the stakeholders will be willing to have those conversations. We do have a luxury here in Detroit that not all cities do, is we have all three venues, as well as others. We have the Northern, we have Fox Theater, we have the Fillmore, all relatively in the same area. You've heard a lot of testimony from folks that they have to work multiple venues throughout the year. I consider that a luxury because not every city has that. Cincinnati comes to mind. They have baseball and football. There's no basketball. There's no hockey. Without the option to do that, I'm not sure how a lot of these folks would live. I'm extremely happy to be able to work with the folks that are willing to go to the ballpark in September, or go up to Pine Knob in the summertime when the arena slows down a little bit. We have some that have been doing that for years, so it is a luxury here. I did try to look up, and I do think it would be very positive for the board to look at other markets around the country. I just tried to look up what I could as far as pay rates, as far as parking, as far as what they could do. I was unable to find a whole lot, but I think if we can dig in a little more, kind of find out what are other cities doing. Are we up to par with the model that is seen around, not necessarily the country, but the Midwest, Chicago, Cleveland, Cincinnati. So I think that would be a great idea. And again, yeah, I just want to add, I feel like I have really great relationships with the stakeholders in these venues that I've built over the years. They've always been wonderful partners to work with, and they want to do what's right. I think sometimes they want to do what's right by the people, let me say, and sometimes it's hard to find the right answers. But I know for my workers, I love them, and they work their butts off, and anything I can do to help them, I would love to do. Any questions?
Yeah, I've got a couple things I wanted to follow up before tossing this to the board. Thank you. That's a compelling story. What does PBS stand for?
Professional Building Services.
Thank you for that. And you referenced that arm is employees represented by SEIU.
That's correct. They are a signer of the CBA.
Is there a difference in terms of employees and receiving benefit contributions like health or pension, things of that nature? Are there some people that get them and some people that don't, say by virtue of working more or less hours, or does everybody, eligible for some type of benefits? How does that work? with you?
Part-time workers unfortunately don't receive many benefits at all. We don't have many of them. Ford Field events come to mind
Yes,
where we're roughly getting 300 people in there. The majority is full-time and their benefits are based on the union contract. The majority of our staff is now union and we're currently in negotiations with the SEIU for the event staff at Ford Field.
Hmm.
If I had to guess, 85 to 90% are in the union currently.
Thank you for that. You referenced, the parking situation. As you know, I work with the IATSE, we're the stagehands, and I've worked at all of those arenas as a rank and file before, taking the job I currently have. It's a big issue. And as you've touched on, it's really cool that here in Detroit, we've got this entertainment district. But boy, when it's game night and those parking spaces are $80 a pop, and you got people that may not even be clearing that on a 4-hour shift going to work. That's a challenge. I could absolutely see that. And also from personal experience, I can touch on, as you pointed out, the food situation. I think we're sort of preaching to the choir with this particular audience. I suspect are a lot of arena workers here, but for people that work in a conventional job setting, the idea that you're, say, on this island, it might be in an arena, but you're on an island, and there, you have limited resources for that. So you've touched on a really good point too. Stagehands over the years, sometimes we're able to negotiate after hours catering. Sometimes people bring their lunch, but I agree that there's probably room for improvement on that too, Jeremy. Um, we are looking at some other markets for input, by the way. Thank you for bringing that up. Anyone else on the board, please, for Jeremy?
Yes, I have a question to the chair.
Please.
You did bring up some good points. I did note them, but I need to understand as far as parking, what are you proposing? Because it's not just your workers that experience that, right? That's a global thing that needs to be addressed. And I think you kind of hit on that, Chair. What are you proposing? Have you talked to the Department of Municipal Parking? Have you put any suggestions together? Is it, because we do have metered parking around the different arenas. We do have city-owned parking garages. We have city-owned parking lots that's not charging that $80 per 40 hours. I mean, 4 hours, as you stated. Have you looked at any of those options, or are you proposing something different?
I have not talked with the city or proposed anything.
Okay,
The and let me be clear, and I don't want to, and I know we had some testimony from stakeholders at Ford Field. Ford Field does offer parking. And what they do is they park them at campus marshes and they have a trolley all night
Right.
long. Not all night long, I'm sorry. It does end around midnight, which
okay,
is phenomenal. Comerica Park also allows them, because we're only post-event, so everybody's gone anyway. They do allow them to park in there. The Little Caesars Arena is a little bit tougher, and I believe, I could be wrong. I believe most of those around there are not city owned, but I could be wrong on that. I don't have a good proposal. I don't have an answer.
okay.
I wish I did.
Yeah, because that's an issue, just not, like I said, that's a.
Oh,
global
you're absolutely right. And we heard some testimony last month on some folks and they brought up parking and as you said, it's downtown everywhere. This isn't just a venues problem there. And unlike other cities too, when I did do some research, Chicago has, I don't know what they call it, the L line or whatever they call it. They have their public transportation. You have Washington, D.C. Those guys don't have to drive. You have New York with the subways. Detroit does not have that. We have the Q line. We have the people mover. Um, but we don't have what they have. They go into the suburbs. You don't have to drive to work. You can get right to the stadium.
Hmm. Well, and to your point, Councilperson Parker, there may be a few angles to this. I think it's definitely worth developing into our recommendations. And you've already given me some ideas that I hadn't thought of. We could be taking a look at city
Right.
resources, municipal resources that may be available that
Right,
nobody may have previously thought of.
right. And then I have another question about transportation. You mentioned the buses. With DDOT, is there a way maybe you buy those passes in bulk? Because if they live not downtown, they live further out, that's the cost of getting to work.
Sure.
I live further out, and yes, I have a vehicle and I'm fortunate to have that, but it's almost like that's the cost of going to work.
Yeah,
And if there's a way to do bus passes from DDOT, in bulk, if a person works, odd hours or however it may go, maybe that's something we could think about or offer, for them.
yeah, and one thing I did forget to mention is we do offer bus passes until they get their first paycheck.
Okay,
Um, as senior leadership of my company, I would be open to having more discussions and anything we can do to help.
okay.
Both excellent points. Anything else, Ms. Parker?
You said affordable food. So you said some of them do bring their lunch, but what are you thinking? Affordable food within the stadium that they can purchase at a different cost, or
Yeah, yeah,
so employees of the arena don't get a discounted?
that is correct. Our employees do not. If you work directly for the arena, if you work for the stakeholders, I believe you get a small discount. As vendors, we don't. But I do want to add, because I do want to give credit, that I had in my notes and I forgot. At Ford Field during the Lions games, we do provide lunch for them. That is something that we pay for. They charge my MX every game. And it's set up by Ford Field where every employee can go in, you sign your name, and every department's going to pay for it. It's like $7, $8 a meal. It comes salad, dessert, you get an entree. Unfortunately, they don't have, we would do the same for the post event, but it's just not available. When the game ends, it's closed up. What I was thinking, and I believe just talking to some of the stakeholders at Joe Louis Arena, they did something similar, where they just had like a bar. It's something cheap, pizza, nachos, and it was $5 to $10 a person, and employees could go through and buy it. I wasn't around in those days, but I will say I have started some discussions with them on that. And they seem open to talk. I mean, as a fan, so they're buying the same food.
Mhm.
So if you go to a game and buy a slice of pizza and a drink, they got to buy the same thing. They do have, I guess, let me correct myself. They do have a small, at Little Caesars Arena, at least a break room with like hot dogs and nachos, but it's only during the games. So if you work during the day, it's not available. If you work post event, it's not available.
So those would be the days they would bring their lunch then.
Well, or if you work the day shift, or if you work the post event, you don't have
Those
an option.
times. Okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay. So I have another question.
sure.
And this is just because I may not know or understand that the chain of command or how it works with, you said you are a vendor, right? And these
Correct.
workers work under you?
They work under my team. Yeah. So I have a director of operations who runs the venues for me. And then each site has a site manager that runs that site. Each shift has a manager. Managers have supervisors.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was in my question.
Thank you. Anyone else on the board, please?
Yeah, thanks for this, Commissioner Bodari. I think like one of the things I wanted to lift up, you mentioned about transportation and like the challenges that exist for your workers. Can you talk a little bit more about like what happens? Like, has there been moments where people, because of the transportation issues people have, where they have to call off work, or because they may have to call off work because of taking care of their family members? Like like you just say a little bit more about like what your members experience, your workers experience?
Yeah, very, very often. Your bus could be late. Your second bus could be late. Your route could stop at a particular time. Hey, I got to leave 2 hours early to make the last bus. And again, we try to accommodate and be an understanding as we can, but I would say it's very, very frequent. Yeah.
Mhm. Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Anyone else on the board?
Yeah, I have a question. So, Jeremy, how's it going? Is there any conversations, and we know what the problems and issues are so far as transportation, security, the food. Is there any conversations that you know of that can bring some type of relief in the immediate future for these arena workers?
None planned that I know of. I've had conversations. Um, again, before COVID, we were making some good leeway. I thought we were having some meetings. We were discussing even where they might pay to park with $2. or something similar to that. So currently in the future, there's no talks being planned that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else on the board? Mr. Beaudry, thank you very much for this information. I appreciate that.
Thank,
Next on this evening's agenda, scheduled is Mr. Rob Zawadzki present in the room today? Rob is unable to make it. Next, I'd like to invite Mr. Mans, Mr. Michael Mans. It's my understanding that you work at Little Caesars Arena. If you would be so kind as to approach the podium, please. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. I work at Little Caesars Arena for LH Sports Entertainment. I'm an usher there. I also work at the Fox Theater as an usher, and I give tours at Comerica Park and also at Fox and Little Caesars Arena. So I am there quite often during the daytime, where he was saying that it's hard to get food. That is something that everyone does put up. Yep. And at nighttime, there is no food. So I've been there also at those times. So my experience at Little Caesars and working for the Illiches have been very pleasurable. There's times where it does get rough around with some of the concerts and things like that, but as far as sports and stuff, it's a great venue. One of the things I'd like to thank all the people that came up and spoke last week. Like you were saying, the transportation sounds like that is one of the biggest things that I feel that the city should be addressing majorly, because that's also some of the reasons why we have not been able to get in some of the big events is partly because of transportation. That's something that we also have to look at. That's how the city of Chicago was not able to get the Olympics in because of transportation. That was a major downfall there. So for us, it's also a major transportation problem. I drive to work, and it's also hard because of all the different routes that we have to take now due to construction. So there's a little bit of confusion there going on. And it does, like you're saying, we do get parking at Little Caesars. It is free parking. So it is not real close, but it is walkable. And then those that cannot walk, we do have a handicap accessible parking much closer for those individuals. Also, one of the other things that the people were mentioned last time was about getting benefits. As you probably all know, the earned time sick hourlies has been passed by the state. So now all those people that were speaking about that actually do now get, or in the very near future, will be getting sick time. So that's one of the things. I don't know if any of those are aware of it, but I did check, and that is something that will be happening for us also.
And just to be clear, to interrupt for a moment, that's the Earned Sick Time Act, otherwise known as ESTA, that took effect, I think, February 21st. Thank you.
Right. Yep. So I checked into that a little bit more today to make sure that, and that does fall under where it does fall under part-time personnel. So that will fall under us. So that's just some of the basic things. As far as like things that could actually also help out some of the people that was mentioned about security. Security is a major thing also that the city should be working on. I noticed today driving in that we had a lot of security out there helping pedestrians cross the roads and keeping traffic moving. After a major event here in the city, we have that just for a very short time, but the traffic's still there a half hour after the game, and there's no more police. So it'd be really helpful to help have those people stationed there until all the traffic has been cleared. And sometimes that gets to be kind of hard, and also for safety of the individuals trying to catch buses and walk from place to place. So that's something I feel that the city should help out with also. As far as the wages go, at Little Caesars Arena, ever since I've only been there 3.5 years, but every year we've had a pay increase. So that's one thing I can say, that over the years, we have always seen something of an increase for taking care of us. for those that feel that they're not getting the proper pay for what they're doing, we have a voice that we can, say that to our employer. And sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. But those that are in the union, I feel that's where should be going to your union representatives to try and fight the next time your contract comes up. So that's just something that I feel that should be handled by the union itself, not by like the city itself. So, growing up, I've been always told to go ahead and, it's up to you to accept your job. Over the years, I've never worked for a union company. All the companies have always been privately owned, and I chose those kind of companies because I felt more at home at those kind of companies. And that same thing with Little Caesars Arena. It's family owned, I feel. And even, villages are very big, but they're still family owned. And I feel they look after us. And that's one of the reasons why I chose that company to work for. It's just one of those things that it's when growing up, if you didn't like a job or if you didn't get offered what you thought that was, that you were worth it, then I didn't take that job. So that's just something that people should also think about in transportation wise and stuff like that. If you have to travel so far, is it really worth your time and your money to make that kind of choice? Or if you have to travel, you have to use a bus system. If you have to use all these different things that are not available on a regular basis, then maybe that's what we have to look at, maybe possibly changing jobs. So that's really about it. I enjoy working there. I love giving tours and taking care of things and helping out the people of Detroit.
Sure, thank you. I just wanted to back up, Mr. Mans, how long have you been with the company?
3.5 years.
Just, okay, 3.5, I heard LCA. Thank you for referencing the Earned Sick Time Act. Currently, just out of curiosity, do you receive any pension or health benefits?
No.
Okay.
No. Now it will start.
Yeah, all right,
Yep.
very good. And I appreciate your comments on self-determination, which may not always apply to everybody, but I certainly agree with the gist of what you had to say on that topic. I think that's all I have for follow-up. Anyone on the board, please, for Mr. Mans?
Yes, I have a question. Mr. Mans, you mentioned security about DPD. Has anyone in your organization or yourself reached out to the third precinct? They are responsible for downtown, Commander Fugenzi. Have you made any inquiries with him or made that request?
Yeah, we've had requested more than once about having extra people around the outside, and they normally stay as long as they possibly can until they feel it's safe. But there's people that hang around the arenas for hours afterwards. But
Has there been any incidents that DPD was not notified about?
not that I know of. No.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else on the board for Mr. Mans? Sir, I appreciate you taking the time today to come up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to touch on, I'm on the next on the docket here, so to speak. One thing that I've observed while listening to the testimony of arena workers and management and company reps here, is that in some cases with some of these classifications, it seems like benefit distribution is maybe, I don't know if uneven is the right word. The gentleman pointed out, Mr. Beaudry pointed out that some people do get benefits such as health, some people don't, and it sounds like by virtue of hours worked or perhaps part-time versus full-time. I'd like to toss this out for everyone's knowledge. Multi-employer benefit funds are commonly used within the construction industry. My union uses those too, and I'd like to talk a little bit about that because we've heard that these venues, because they're gig based, may not have events every day of the week. So therefore, a traditional work setting like an office 40 hours a week doesn't really apply, and we get that. We've heard that a lot of employees are able to support themselves by virtue of going from one arena to the other through various work relationships. Stagehands do the same thing. We're gig workers. We may be at Ford Field one day. We might be at Little Caesars the next. We could be at the Fox or anywhere else. What we do as a sort of a benefits model at IATSE is when we negotiate benefits with our employers, we think of them most often in terms of percentage contribution. And by that, let me just toss out a hypothetical percentage amount of, say, 20%, which is close to what we're doing at Ford Field. For every $100 that the employee earns in wages, the employer sends a check to that person's health account for 20% of their gross wages for the day. So if you made $100, you'd get a $20 contribution. If you made, and you can do the math from there. So what happens for a stagehand is if, say they go to work at a venue one day and earn $300, 20% of that, an amount equaling 20%, gets sent to that employee's health account. Then say the next day, if they go to another venue, our contracts are set up here in Detroit all about the same. So what I'm getting at is that an individual person can hop from a venue to a venue and from an employer to an employer during the week or during the month. But at the end of that period, that employee is receiving all those benefit contributions into a health fund that they can use to pay their premiums. So I'm not sure that every union does that, but if there are any people interested in talking with me more on the side or have questions about that, I just wanted to toss that out for the benefit of the board and the audience. Are there any questions on that? I hope I described the process, but I'd certainly take any questions.
Yeah, Joe, I have a question. You mentioned they're working for different companies
Yes.
each time? Okay.
Yeah, so there is a multi-employer, a Taft-Hartley benefit fund administered. Say, in the case of IATSE, we have a health fund set up in New York, a health trust. So if Joe Miller goes out and, as I said, work at one employer one day, another employer a different day, at the end of my week, those different employers all send their required contributions to a health account that's in my name that I can use to pay my quarterly premiums with. And as a matter of fact, so let's say hypothetically, my quarterly premium might be 2,500 for the quarter. Every 3 months, our people say, let's just bring this back to me, hypothetically. If I don't work quite enough, or if the benefit contributions aren't high enough at an employer, I'll get a notice from my health fund saying, you might be $300 shy of your quarterly premium. Would you like to self-pay it, or would you like to downgrade your coverage? And conversely, if I'm working under good agreements where the hours that I work are enough to cover that, and as a business agent, I try to monitor that while negotiating. Conversely, if I have enough contributions, my fund says to me, your premium's 2,500, but you've got 3,500 in your account. We're going to pay your premium and know that we're rolling over $1,000 to your next quarter. So as I say, a lot of building trades use that model, but I have a sense that not everybody in the stakeholders here may be aware of that. So I just wanted to toss that out. Any other questions from the board? Okay, hearing none, do we have any new business to come before the board today, please? Hearing none, any good and welfare? I would like to say on that note, Board Member Perry had a child care issue today, and Council President Sheffield sends her regards. She had another commitment today. That being said, with anticipation of our next regularly scheduled meeting on the 3rd Wednesday of April, we'll be doing that, and I expect at that time to take a look at organizing some committees to start parsing out some recommendations. Anyone else on the board before we adjourn? I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight. Let's adjourn at 6:10 p.m. Thank you, Mr. Beaudry.
Thank you.